Yo, welcome to the Power Play Podcast. We would like to demonstrate the value in the casual, everyday conversation. I am Mighty Boy the GOAT. I have my brother with me, Drop Top J Lock, and we got two very special guests today, Mr. Joe
Special
and Joseph
guest.
North of the North Law Firm. How you fellas doing today?
Doing
I'm
great.
doing great.
Thank you for having
Awesome.
us.
Yes, we're so glad to have you all. Here on this Power Play,
Definitely.
we like to create positive content for our audience to enjoy and also to relate to. So we're really happy to have two positive figures like yourself on our show today, for sure. So we want
Thank
to
you
dive
guys
right
for
in.
giving us the opportunity, because I know you've got a tremendous platform and you don't have to share it with everybody. So thank you for sharing that with us today. We appreciate
Yes, sir.
you.
Appreciate it.
Take it for
Absolutely.
granted.
Thank you.
That means a
Thank
lot.
you.
So diving right in, being from the Dunbar community, speak on, and question is for both of you. Being from the
Okay.
Dunbar community, speak on your childhood experiences growing up in Fort Myers. We'll start with you,
Okay.
Joe.
Well, I'm the old head here in the group.
Yeah.
So I grew up here. I was born way back in 1965, and I grew up here when Dunbar and Lee County was small. Everybody knew everybody. I mean, shoot, we only had 4 high schools back then. So we knew everybody at every high school. And it was good because, when we went out into the community, we were able to socialize and have friends, and those friendships that, I came across growing up, I still have those friendships today. And
Awesome.
so I really had a good experience here in Dunbar. And that's one of the reasons why I still love Dunbar today.
Yes, sir.
And similar, just my father growing up here, and then his father as well, and my family just having 3 generations here. Growing up, it was like everywhere I turned, there was someone who either knew me or my family, my grandma or grandfather. So it was just a full community feel that it's always been that way, and we really love it.
This question for both of you.
Okay.
First, Joe, why did you pursue career in the law field? And the same thing, why did you pursue that same field as your father, Joseph?
Okay. All right. So, I went to college at the Citadel, and at the time I did not know what I would choose to do, long term. I knew I was in college, but I didn't know exactly what career I would have. I majored in political science, and it was during my first year of college that I determined that the best way for me to have an impact on other people, to help other people, is to become an attorney, go to law school. And then when I answered that question, I knew that I was going to come back home to practice law, because I'd rather help people here in my home, in my community, than anywhere else in the world. So I say that the decision came naturally for me, and I've never looked back. I'm so glad that I chose this field.
And I have a sort of a similar story, but different in some ways, where I always knew in the back of my head, my dad's practicing law, so maybe that's something I'll do, but I never really leaned into it. And so around my sophomore, junior year of college, and I'm thinking what I'm going to do when I graduate. And so I'm looking at different career paths, and I'm interviewing with different companies and firms and whatnot. And I can tell that, and again, this is 2016, but I could tell at that time a lot of industries and companies were shifting towards data heavy and tech. And so at that time, I wanted to do something where I knew I could actually interact with people on a daily basis. Because I think that's what we're losing a lot of. And I thought to myself that law looks like probably the last industry where that human element is going to be taken out of. So that was what really sort of stamped my decision to go to law school. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't know and probably assume is that my dad probably encouraged me or suggested me that I go to law school. But the funny thing is, and he could vouch to it, he never even once suggested and say, hey, you think about law school. It was me that went to him and said, hey, I think I'm going to start applying to law schools and whatnot. So it really just worked out that way.
Yeah,
That's
I can
amazing.
Absolutely.
because I did not push him into it, even though secretly I always wanted him to come into the law, but I didn't push him into it. And then once he graduated from law school, he didn't come home right away to practice with the firm, although secretly that's what I wanted. He made that decision on his own. But, they say good things come to those who wait, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
You definitely say that.
Joseph, can you describe some of your law school experiences and what are some of the accolades you achieved while you were there? You went to
Sure.
Emory University in Atlanta, right?
So I did Emory for my undergrad college, and then I did Belmont School of Law in Nashville for law school.
Okay. All
And I
right.
know that a couple months before I started, my mom told me, you know what, Joseph, I think you're really going to enjoy law school. And I thought she was crazy because all the stories I would hear is that you just put your head down and you just power through day by day, which I did. But I actually ended up really enjoying it. And my favorite
Awesome.
thing about law school was probably moot court. So I did the moot court team, which is sort of like you have 4 to 6 people at the school, and we're on the moot court team. And then we travel to different states, different schools, and compete against different schools. And
Wow.
something I'm most proud of is one of my professors in my first year, she encouraged me to do it. And I told her, no, public speaking isn't for me. And she encouraged me. And by the end of that year and for the next year, I was able to win a national championship for the school doing the oral advocacy through moot court. So that's something I'm just really proud of, to just sort of step out of my comfort zone. And it turned out to be a nice niche for me.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely amazing. So, Mr. Joe, let's talk
Yes, sir.
about who are some of your African American influences that influenced your career today?
Well, there are two, really. Here locally, it was Judge Isaac Anderson, who was one of the first African American attorneys here in Dunbar and in Fort Myers. And when I came back to practice, he was already a judge. And I got a chance to talk to him about a lot of different things about the right way to do it. So I really appreciated him. And then on a national level, you know, I got to say it was Johnny Cochran. God bless the dead. When I watched Johnny Cochran try that O.J. Simpson case, it gave me all the confidence in the world that I needed because, I mean, he was a powerful man. And I saw how, he could sway juries and what have you. And I took notes. And Johnny Cochran, even though he's known for the O.J. Simpson case, he also had a very lucrative, personal injury practice. And he also helped a lot of people in police brutality cases. So I saw through him the power of practicing law and what good it can do for people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Joe, I understand you ran track in high school and in college at the Citadel. Heard you were very fast. I mean, I wouldn't race you myself, but I don't know if I got it in me. So speak on your athletic career in college, and what are some of the characteristics that you learned from track and field that you carry over to your law practice?
Well, yeah, I ran track in high school. I also went on to run track at the Citadel in college. What that taught me is that you got to put in the work. Whether it's in sports, whether it's in your business career, no matter what you're doing, you got to put in the work because if you put in the work, you'll get great results. So I take that away from those experiences, and I still use those to this day. But I will say this: my best event was actually on Edison Avenue
Okay,
one Thursday night in front of the Stars Complex, which back then we called it the Rec.
the wreck, yes, sir.
And you guys may not know this guy because you're on the younger side, but there was a guy who was also very fast here in town, Thomas Young. We called him T-Rock. And everybody wondered who's the fastest, Joe North or T-Rock. Well, one night we laced him up right there at the Rec Center or the Stars Complex, and we raced. And rumor has it that I won. We'll see.
Okay, all right. We gonna go with that. We're gonna stay with that.
We definitely gonna say you were. Joseph, what were some of the skills that you learned from your father that plays an important part in your career today?
I think one of the number ones is consistency, where just daily basis putting the work in. And when you do that over time, over days, months, and years, the work starts to speak for itself. And then when you develop those good habits, it makes success as an outcome, more achievable. And then also doing things the right way. Just in college, being in Atlanta, then going to Nashville, you see people from all types of walks of life. You interact with so many different folks, and you see folks who appear to be doing a lot and being successful, but it's not always the right way as far as whether they're bringing other people with them, helping others, taking shortcuts. So it's always been a blessing for me to have sort of my dad as a role model and example of how to get from A to B, but doing it the right way and thinking about others in a route.
That's amazing. That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
And with that, Joseph, speak about the importance of growing up seeing such a prominent black male figure in your household, and what did that mean to you?
I mean, it means everything. And the funny thing is, I appreciate it even more today because it's all I knew at the time. And so just to have that role model, you see in real time sort of what you're supposed to do and what the standard and expectation is. So I was just so fortunate enough that I never had to look elsewhere or question, what's expected of me or what it looks like if I stay on the right road for a long time. Because I think that can be where it gets difficult, where you know what you're supposed to do, but you don't see an example of what's actually going to happen if you stay on that road for the next 5, 10, 30 years, whatever it is. But I've been lucky enough to literally watch him in real time. And it just when the path is laid out of just what the right thing to do is, it just makes it, much easier to follow and to look up to.
Mr. Joe, why did you
Yes.
choose personal injury over criminal cases?
So this is going to sound weird, but it is the truth. And that is, you know, in personal injury cases, it's all about the money, right? Whereas in criminal cases, it's all about whether someone gets to go home at night. And I much rather be in a position where I'm helping someone get compensated for, you know, injuries that they've endured because of the fault of somebody else than sitting in the courtroom waiting for a verdict, knowing that if it's not the verdict that we want, my client may not go home. And I don't know if dealing with that for him or her would be suited for me. I think it would just bother me too much if I lost a criminal case and I'm home at night, but my client's behind bars. I never wanted that. I'd rather handle the cases where, at the end of the day, I know my client's getting some kind of justice.
Joseph, how do you feel about that? What was your reasoning behind personal injury over criminal cases? I mean, because obviously, growing up in law, you wanted, to do law, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily would have took the same route as your father. So, you know, what went into
Yeah,
that decision?
I feel similarly about the criminal side of things, and I'll tell a story. It was one summer where a good friend of mine was interning at a criminal firm, and we had a routine. We'd go to work during the day, and then at night we would just all hoop together, play ball, and we'd just be talking about our days. And I remember it was a Monday, and he said, "Yeah, his boss has this case. He's pretty sure his client's gonna get off." Then Tuesday, he said, "I think trial's going well, but it could go either way." And then Wednesday, he just had a somber look on his face, and he was telling me it didn't work out. He's gonna do some time. The family's in the courtroom, and then we were just talking about it. And the thing is, of course, his family's in the courtroom crying. If they had won the case, the victim's family's in the courtroom crying. And so again, that's something where I take my work home with me, as far as, it already resonates with me so much as it is, but it's a different type of ball game when you're talking about someone's freedom. And so that's part of why I chose this. But before I started doing personal injury, I was doing corporate defense where I was representing companies. And one of the reasons I wanted to switch to this is because it just feels much better when someone comes to you and they need assistance to get from A to B to get compensated, and you can help them do that, as opposed to helping a faceless company just maintain the status quo.
Absolutely.
So it's
Understandable.
much more enjoyable doing it when you're, again, working with people.
Joseph, you remember your first case and were you nervous?
I do remember my first case actually vividly, and I was pretty nervous. I was up in Nashville, and I had to drive to Knoxville, 3-hour drive by myself. I'd never been to Knoxville before. Not too many African Americans in Knoxville, so I get to the hotel, and I was so nervous before the deposition that I probably got 90 minutes of sleep because I was just up prepping, prepping, prepping. And long story short, it worked out very well, because by the time I got back to Nashville that night and in the office the next morning, my boss came in my office and said that the client was so impressed with the work I did that he emailed my boss and all of the partners saying that I did a good job. So I was very nervous, but what I found is the way to undo nervousness is to just over prepare. So
Yes.
I've been doing that ever since. If
agree.
you feel nervous, it probably means you're not prepared enough yet.
Right.
But I was a little nervous on my first case.
Rightfully
I'm
so,
sure.
man. Rightfully so. This was for Mr. Joe and actually for Joseph, but I'm gonna
Okay.
have Mr. Joe answer it first. What are some common misinterpretations, and misunderstandings of accident and injury law? We'll start with you, Joe.
Well, I think a lot of people look at personal injury lawyers as quote unquote ambulance chasers, that we, feed off the tragedy of someone else. But it's really the opposite. We don't consider ourselves ambulance chasers, but what we do is consider ourselves as somebody who's there during somebody's time of need. Because, no one wishes a bad accident on anybody. But when someone is involved in a bad accident and, they can't walk anymore, or they've got to have back surgery or what have you, somebody's got to help them, especially when they're in that condition because of the fault of somebody else. It's not their own fault. And I consider it actually an honor when a family calls me in that time of need and say, hey, we don't know what to do. We're going through a lot. Can you help us? And we're there to help them. So I think a misconception is that we're just in it for ourselves. But the truth of the matter is, at least at our law firm, we're really there to help other people.
I think a broader misconception, and this is something that I started almost noticing in law school that I've had to dispel, is when you're in law school, everyone's telling you if you want to practice really sophisticated and big time law, you have to go to a big city. You got to practice in Atlanta. You got to be in Miami or New York. And I think that's a huge misconception, because the quality of the practice in the law travels with the attorney, not the firm. And so one of the things that I know I take pride in is because I was doing the quote big law in Nashville. But when I come down here to Fort Myers, I bring all of that with me as far as everything I've learned in that standard. And so I think it's a misconception that corporate defense attorneys or firms are more equipped or sophisticated than a personal injury firm or a plaintiff's attorney. And not to get on my soapbox, but I think part of that is because insurance companies aren't going to make an effort to promote personal injury attorneys. So I think they, in their ads and their things of that nature, that's part of why we get that misconception.
Mr. Joe, what was your most challenging case, and do you still think about that case to this day?
Yes, sir. The case that moved me and will always move me is a negligent security case against Club Blue. I represented 17 families when 17 teenagers were shot, 2 killed, the others badly injured. And it was all because there was not enough security in the parking lot or at the club. And, because it was kids involved, that bothered me the most then. And I still think about it to this day, because their lives and their families' lives would change really forever.
So, Mr. Joe, and again, this question, Joseph, you can answer as well. Coming from the Dunbar community, did you face any stereotyping against your decision to pursue the practice of law? Joe, start with you.
Not directly, not from the community. But I will say that I faced an issue one time when I was working for a law firm, because I didn't always work for myself or have my own law firm. I opened my own law firm in 1996, but I started practicing law in 1990. And I remember when I first started practicing law, I was, doing defense work, representing companies. And there was this one company out of Sarasota who said that they did not want me on the case. And I think it had everything to do with the fact that I'm Black, not that I was young. And fortunately, I had a supervisor who wasn't hearing that and told that company, look, he's an attorney with our firm and he represents you, or none of us represent you. I really respected him for it, and everything turned out good. That client who initially did not want me representing them turned out to be one of my best clients before I left the law firm. So a lot of times, people will have their misconceptions until they see you get the results. And when they see the work that you put in and the great job that you're doing, at the end of the day, that's all they want. They want to win. They don't care what you look like when you win.
Yeah, I've never had anything so overt, but just coming up, like I'll give you an example. Through law school, there were 106 students in my class, and I was one of 2 Black men. And, we're just underrepresented. And I do remember being at a moot court tournament, and there's six of us, six advocates. I'm the only Black advocate, and the judges are asking questions. And I remember one judge in particular was just peppering me with unreasonable questions. And of course, we can't prove it. We don't know what the reason was, but all four of us Black men sitting here, when you sort of get that vibe that,
Yeah.
of what the intention is. And I remember getting that energy, and, it ended up turning out all right. But just by the nature of the field, I encounter that sometimes, but the way I look at it is you just got to be that much better so that there can be no doubt about your qualification or your abilities, capabilities, and things of that nature.
Joseph, have you ever had a case that made you second guess your skills?
I can't say I've had a case that's made me second guess my skills. Some cases are more challenging than others. Sometimes I have cases where I represent one client against 5 different defendants that are all big businesses, or it could be the property manager, security company. So that creates challenges, but I've never really second guessed my skills because it just goes back to putting in the work. By the time it gets to a deposition, a hearing, or a trial, there's no reason to be nervous or second guess if you already know the case cold front through back. And it's a lot of times it's pretty easy to tell within that first 30 minutes or hour whether the other side is as knowledgeable and as prepped as you are.
That's amazing. So, Mr. Joe, how do you
Yes.
handle pressure and high expectations for your cases?
Well, the high expectations actually fuel me. I think it's good for the case. And as an example, a lot of people know of me or about me. So when they hire me, they are expecting great things. Well, what that does for me, it makes me deliver
Yeah.
because I know that that's what they're expecting. And I never want to let any client down. I never want to let anybody down. So that just makes me work harder and harder and harder to make sure that I deliver what's being expected.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sure. Joseph, you just recently became partner at the North Law Firm. How was that journey? And speak on that remarkable accomplishment.
Thank you. The journey's been amazing thus far. And as I think back, because to be honest with you, I don't really take too much time to just think about where I'm at or what I've done because time goes by so quickly, as y'all know. So my favorite part of just having that moment of being named partner was it gave me an intentional reason to actually reflect. And as I think about it, it's just crazy in life, the things that you didn't realize you were learning or picking up along the way that end up paying off. And I just remember, for example, when I was a freshman and sophomore at Emory, I had some friends that liked to freestyle. So we would freestyle, and then we said, wait a second, we see dance club, poetry club. We have a freestyle club. So long story short, we made it an official chartered club. So we'd be freestyling every Wednesday. Then fast forward to moot court, believe it or not, me freestyling every Wednesday helped me become a better moot court advocate. So when I get a question out of nowhere, I know how to, on the spot, give them a sensible answer and response, even if it's something I wasn't expecting. So it's just little things like that from freestyle club, moot court, meeting so many different people at Emory that as I think about the journey, all these things coming together, sort of brought me here today. So it just makes me reminisce more than anything and then excited to, take it to the next level as partner.
Absolutely, man. Well, here at Power Play, we congratulate you and we commend you. And there's no time like the present. Can we get a freestyle right now?
Oh my
you
God.
know. No, we'll save it for later, Joe. We'll save it for later. We'll save it for later. I'm gonna bail you out this time.
I want to talk about your preparation. Go ahead, Joseph. What you said?
I said y'all almost made me go viral for a second.
It's coming. But I want to talk about your preparation for a case. Do you listen to a song or do you like silence? Like, what is your preparations for some of your cases or all your cases?
So when I'm like on my way to trial, for example, in the morning, I do have certain artists that I listen to sort of get me in that mode. Like I'm putting on some Jay-Z, most likely. Actually, Jay-Z is probably the number one artist I'm putting on before trial, maybe a little bit of Drake or Lil Baby, but I get hyper focused with my music. I have probably 150 playlists on my phone that I make. For me, music is like, it's almost like a lifeblood. The music you listen to is going to have a direct impact on your mood, your energy levels,
Absolutely.
the way you communicate with others. So for me, I think Jay-Z is one of the gold standards as far as just Black man in business, CEO mentality. So that's part of why I listen to him when I'm preparing or on my way to a trial or a big hearing.
Yeah, for me, it's Nipsey Hussle. I don't think there's anything more motivating than dedication.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah, and I came late to the party with Nipsey Hussle. But once I got on board, I was all in.
Mr.
Yeah.
Joe, better late than never. Better late than
Yeah.
never. For sure.
Nipsey
And
Hussle is definitely one of my favorites too.
I've walked in on him watching Nipsey Hussle music videos quite often.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
So what else in your playlist, Mr. Joe?
Well, Nipsey Hussle. I also listen to Jay-Z. I love neo soul, so I'll listen to Music Soul Child. I like Ledisi. Anything Erykah Badu, I'm all in.
Okay. Okay. A little bit of Carl Tyrone every now and then. Okay.
Yes.
Understand? Yes, sir. So look, guys, the North Law Firm donated $100,000 to the Black History Society to help fund the project to build a Black Cultural Center in Clemente Park in Fort Myers. I want to say before I finish this question, thank you for that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Speak about what it means to you to be able to make such a generous contribution.
Well, Clemente Park, I often say, is my backyard because I was born at Jones Walker Hospital. And for those who don't know, Jones Walker Hospital used to be where Jones Walker Apartments is now, which is now Royal Palm, the shack. So that was right down the street. But then my family moved to Dale Street. So literally, Clemente Park was my backyard because it came right up to Dale Street. So it was very personal to me to be able to do whatever we could do to help the Black History Society, which sits right there at Clemente Park, because it's much more than just a central location there in the Dunbar community. It's really something for all of Dunbar and really all of Fort Myers. It's going to be, we're doing some expansions over there, and it's going to be right there, which is a gateway to downtown Fort Myers. So the fact that we were able to be a part of that was very moving to me. And I'm hoping that what we did will encourage other businesses to join in, because they say many hands make light work. So if other businesses can join in and donate funds or resources or time, there's no telling what we can create over there.
Mr. Joe, what would you say is the most essential skill to have in this field?
I would say communication, because, Joseph and I, we are trial lawyers. So one of the things that we have to be able to do during trial, even before the case gets to trial, when we're negotiating with opposing counsels or insurance companies, is we have to be able to tell a story, to tell our client's story, to be able to communicate it in a way that it makes sense and that is justified. Because no matter what the case is about, if those 6 people sitting on the jury don't understand the story, you're going to lose. So you got to be able to tell that story effectively that everybody understands, but it also makes them want to side with your client. So I say the biggest thing is to be able to communicate.
Sure. Mr. Joe, I'm going to stick with you because I find a lot of things that you've accomplished interesting. You are also a member of the board of directors for the City of Palms Classic Basketball Tournament. I'm a big fan of that. I go to that almost every year, and I had no idea that you were even involved with that. So that's just amazing to me. And you've also had the honor of having the street that you grew up changed to your name, from Barden Street to Joe North Way. Speak on both of those accolades, and just speak on the event of the basketball tournament itself and just being a part of it.
Yeah, so the City of Palms Classic is a tournament that brings in basketball talent, high school talent from all over the country. And I've always enjoyed going to that tournament. But I can tell you that when Joseph was in high school, his basketball team played in the tournament. And it was a very proud moment for me to see my son lace him up over there at Bishop Road, when the Classic used to be at Bishop Road.
Yes.
and play in that tournament. And over the years, it's just grown and grown and grown, and our whole family is involved. Our whole family is there every night of the tournament doing, different things. And before we get there, during the course of the year, we're involved to help make it what it is so that when we get there in December, it's a well-polished product. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. In terms of Joe North Way, when someone told me, hey, we're going to name a street after you, I was floored, because that's one of the highest honors that an individual can have. And the fact that it's on the street that I grew up on, where my dad still lives, was very special. And as you know, I'm very connected to Dunbar High School, and that Barton Street intersects right there at Dunbar High School. It was like all the heavens just came together at once to make it a special time, a special event that can go on forever. So yeah, I'm very proud of that.
Absolutely, man. Great accomplishment for sure.
Joseph, let's talk about the younger generation. What would be the steps you would tell a person who just got in an accident to do, instead of, obviously they want to call their parents or call a friend? What would be some of those steps you can walk them through if they got in an accident?
I'd say, God forbid they get in an accident, you want to go ahead and call 911, have the police there to make sure they document who all's involved, as well as get an accident report. And then you do want to call your parents, your loved ones, but the most important thing I would say is get treatment and give an attorney a call. Because some things that sometimes what the insurance companies will do is, if they know you've been in an accident and in a good case, they'll try to send a check right to your door for half of what your case is worth, or a quarter of what your case is worth, hoping that you cash it or you sign off on it. So I'd say get an attorney involved ASAP as soon as you get the police report and get medical attention.
Absolutely. This question is for both of you. What are goals for the North Law Firm over the next 5 years? We'll start with you, Joseph.
I would say to continue to help as many people as we can, in as many different types of cases as we can. Because as it is now, we assist with, of course, personal injury, but family law matters, hurricane insurance matters as well. And if you go back, 10 years ago, we didn't do all of that. So I think part of the goal is over the next 5 years to continue expanding, and then also continue to just set the gold standard for the practice of law. Because like I mentioned earlier, some folks who live in larger cities, they think you need to be in Miami, Atlanta, LA to get S-tier representation. And I think we want to continue to set the standard that right here in Fort Myers, you can get S-tier representation on your case.
Yeah, I agree with every single thing that Joseph just said. And I would also say that, our hope as a firm is to be even more involved in the community, because without the community, to be honest with you, we don't exist. So we are happy, more than happy, to give back and to do whatever we can for our community. And I hope that over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, we're doing even more and more of that.
So this question for the both of you: what advice would you give African Americans considering to go in the law field? Let's start with you, Joseph.
I would say, first of all, plainly do it. If you have that inkling and that itch, you should absolutely do it. And then second, and I felt some of this, and I learned the word is called imposter syndrome, where you're surrounded by a lot of folks that don't look like you. And so you question to yourself, do I belong here? Am I supposed to be doing this? And I would say, outwork that, ignore that. The only way to grow is outside of your comfort zone. So if you've just been doing what you're comfortable with for however long, however many years, months, go ahead and step out, because it's going to be uncomfortable at first. But it's not until you step out, then you look back a month or a year later and say, wow, I'm out here and I'm comfortable now. I've understood the jargon. I've learned so much. So I would just say step out your comfort zone and do it. And then lastly, reach out. I'm always happy to help, whether it's from a mentorship perspective, just to give advice, point someone in the right direction. But you heard my dad talk about community. That's part of community. Having someone you can lean on and who's going to shoot it straight with you as far as just giving you advice and mentioning that.
Mr. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, Joseph pretty much said it all, but I would add that don't be afraid of the amount of time it's going to take to become a lawyer. One thing that Joseph and I talk about all the time is, the 4 and then the 40. It's the 440 rule. Spend the next 4 years doing whatever you need to do to take care of the next 40 years. So go ahead and go to college. Spend those 3 years of law school. The time will fly by, and then you're going to have a 40-year career, 40 plus. That's going to be very good for you and good for you being able to affect the people around you.
Absolutely. So Joe, I got a question for you. This question I've been waiting to ask you all interview. You started college. You started your college career at the Citadel. You
Okay,
graduated
yeah.
from Florida State. Now, their football teams play each other September 28th, 2025. Who are you rooting for?
Well, anybody who knows me knows that I always go for the underdog, which in this case would be the Citadel.
Okay.
Because it's unlikely that the Citadel could beat Florida State. So my inkling is to root for the Citadel. But I would say this. If Florida State has a chance to compete for a national championship, I got to root for Florida State. I don't want them to get beat. Because, in college, you lose one time, you're out.
That's right.
Well, I think I'd be rooting for FSU.
Absolutely, man. All right.
And I just got one question before we move on. One question for the both of them. How do you guys self-care? Dealing with all the cases that y'all deal with on a normal basis, what are some of the things that you self-care to get you back right and get back on track? Starting with you, Joseph.
It's pretty simple. Music and basketball for me, especially when I can combine those two. I think my favorite Saturday evening might be putting my earphones in, setting my playlist up, getting to the park, and getting some shots up. And sometimes it's not even playing with other people. It's just sort of being in that mode and unwinding. And my friends and my cousins can vouch. Even when I go to the park with them, I'm the guy bringing the speaker because I need to have that music as well. So that's how I self-care.
And for me, I absolutely love movies. Okay. There's some movies I can watch over and over and over again. Total relaxation for me is just sitting back, watching a movie. Doesn't matter whether it's a scary movie, a drama, a comedy, a romance. I love them all. So that's my sweet spot.
And the fun fact about that is he was this close to being on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire movie edition. He took the test, everything, so he's not lying. He loves his movies.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. Joseph, you mentioned basketball a few times, man. You got a favorite team, NBA? Anybody in the playoffs right now you rooting for?
If you had asked me a couple of weeks ago, I would have said the Heat are in the playoffs, and I'm rooting for them. But
I'm sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
But that's my number one team, and I will shamelessly follow LeBron wherever he goes. So when he was in Miami, I was on cloud 9, but I'm a Laker fan now too.
I appreciate you being a Lakers fan. I am too.
But
I hope you're a Lakers fan over a Miami fan.
He first. You heard what he said.
Because this guy over here is a Miami fan, so we battle all day, every day. So now we're going to be torn about, whose boy you are the most between me and him. Listen, guys, I like to get into a few of our segments. We like to end the show with 3 segments. So the first segment is what we like to give flowers to an artist and or song that we feel deserves flowers for this episode. We like to defer to our guest. And since you guys have mentioned music so much today, what is the one song that you all are pressing play on?
Or artist. It could be a song,
one song or artist. And Mr. Joe, for you, we even make an exception. You can even throw the movie in there. One movie.
Yeah.
That you're pressing play on.
I don't want y'all to think ill will of me, but I gotta say American Gangster.
Okay. Denzel.
No, that's a good movie. Denzel is the GOAT.
That is a movie, and there's so many life lessons to be learned from that movie. A lot of people just look at Denzel as the gangster in that movie, but I look at him as not just the gangster, but also the businessman, the family man.
Yes.
He had it all.
Had it all, yeah.
But yeah, that's probably a movie that I could watch over and over and over and over again. And then, of course, back to music, anything Erykah Badu.
Okay. All right. Absolutely.
Shout out Erykah Badu.
Sure.
Man, honestly, that's the toughest question I've been asked in a long time because it's like so many songs. I would have to go with the song "You Don't Know" by Jay-Z.
Okay.
Okay. That for me is top of the playlist every time. If I'm on a deserted island with an iPod with one song, that might be it.
That's gonna be the one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For sure. So our next segment we like to call the power play segment. Now, this segment we like to highlight individuals or individual who are we consider making power plays. That could be in the industry of sports, music, entrepreneurship, and we love black-owned
Black
businesses.
businesses.
So today it's only fitting that we go with Joe and Joseph North of the North Law Firm.
Did you know after an accident, you may be entitled to financial compensation for medical treatment, loss of wages, pain, and suffering? At the North Law Firm, they handle all types of accident cases, including auto, bicycle and pedestrian, motorcycle, as well as slip and fall. So if you injured behind someone else's fault, please reach out to the North Law Firm today at 239-337-1191. Also at www.thenorthlawfirm.com. Again, at 239-337-1191 and www.thenorthlawfirm.com. If you want to win, it's best to tag Joe in.
For our power play pick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate that.
And please remember, you pay nothing unless the North Law Firm recovers you.
That's correct.
So that's our gift to y'all for today.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Definitely call North Law Firm.
For sure. And then our last segment, it's our empowerment segment. In this segment, we like to create a safe space where we communicate, we motivate, we inspire, and we empower. We usually pick a topic, but today we will defer to you both. Could you please say something empowering, inspirational, motivational to our audience?
Yeah, so I would say whatever you're doing, and this applies to somebody who's 3 years old or who's 63 years old. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, make sure that it's something that you love. It's something that you want to do. Because, for instance, when it comes to work, for the most part, we're all going to work 8 hours a day. There's 24 hours in a day. So that's a third of your life. So if you are a child growing up, try to find what is it going to be that you love that you will enjoy doing. Or if you're already grown and you're not happy in whatever job you have, think about what is it that you would love to do, because that's when you're going to be the most successful, when you're doing something that you love. And that applies whether you're young or old. Just get out and do it.
Yeah, I second that. And I would also say create the world you want to see, or to create the world you want to live in. Because a lot of things that we just inhale and just assume are normal and part of our reality, it was because someone else decided to create that. And an example is, I'm sure you have some kids that are just used to seeing big yellow billboards that say the North Law Firm, but the reason that's there is because 30 years ago, my dad had the vision to create it. Same way how you have Lonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball in the NBA, two brothers, you have LiAngelo Ball doing his thing. That's because 30 years ago, LeVar had a dream. And he said, you know what? I'm going to find the right wife, and I'm going to create, I'm going to have 3 kids who are going to be in the NBA. And it sounded crazy to everyone at the time, but now that's just the normal reality. Steph becoming the best shooter, whatever it is. And so I would just say it sounds far-fetched or unrealistic, but you can literally create however you want the world to be, or whatever it is you want to do. It's possible. It's just a matter of putting one foot in front of the other and taking it day by day.
Absolutely, guys.
This has been amazing. I'm thankful. I'm blessed to have you guys as a guest. Man, I've been talking to Lamar all week about this. Like I was just so excited to have you guys on. So it's been a real honor to have you guys as a guest.
But we
Absolutely.
appreciate it. You guys gave us some great questions, and I've loved doing it. So thank you very much.
And platforms like this are really important. And y'all know there's a lot of negativity out there. Just I was saying, a lot of folks, they watch podcasts and they say, man, I wish I could create one. I wish I could do that. And y'all are doing it in real time, the right way, putting on for people and just spreading positivity. So just salute 100%.
Appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. Joe and Joseph, it's been an absolute pleasure. We appreciate you all from us here at Pod Play, from the Dunbar community, from Southwest Florida and the world. We commend you, brothers, on what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep leading by example. This has been the Power Play Podcast. I am Mighty Boy the GOAT. I'm with my brother, the one and only Drop Top J Lock. And we're signing out with our special guests, Joe and Joseph North of the North Law Firm. We'll see you guys next time. Love.
Love.
Yo, thank y'all for tuning in to the Power Play Podcast on the Power Play channel. But please, 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 before y'all proceed, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe,
And make that bell ding, ring that bell.